page
So
back to you.
stingy.
There we go. All right. Okay, here we go. So welcome, everybody, to the Indie Game Academy. I don't know how many times I've said that now, but welcome again. So we're going to do what I'm calling the how-to jam tonight and over this weekend. Very chill, very calm jam. Not expecting anything crazy. I don't want you to stay up until 3 in the morning unless you feel like it. But the general point of a game jam is to build a game in a certain time frame, and the most common time frame is 48 hours, so a full 2 days. They get really crazy really fast. One of my favorite jams of all time was the Global Game Jam, where I got to go to the Google offices in person, and I literally slept on the floor for like 3 hours so that I could keep working on my game. People really take them seriously and go crazy with them, but that's because the game development community has sort of formed a culture around them. And I actually think that game jams in general are, or this concept of jamming, is a really powerful one and can be brought to many different spaces that it currently isn't in. For instance, I still haven't done this, but I've been planning for the longest time to do an entrepreneur jam where people actually start a business and try to make money in 48 hours, because I think that would be really interesting to see what people come up with. But regardless, super, super powerful learning tool. There's almost always some kind of theme or constraint, and often it's judged, though not always. This one is not going to be judged. Any game that we complete over the next 48 hours, on Sunday, we're going to come together again to show it off, celebrate each other, be excited that we made a game. Okay, so why should you jam? Because I really do think you should. This is such a powerful tool. First of all, because you'll become a god. Every single game that you work on, every single game that you put under your belt, you are improving your own skills, you are experimenting with concepts, you are also just learning the process. So even though this is in 48 hours, the process is actually quite similar to what you would do over whatever length of time you'd be building a game over. You could have a 4-year time frame for your game, and you'd wind up going through the same steps that you do in just one weekend. So every time you do a game jam, you really are building your skills as a game developer. You definitely get to build your portfolio. At the end of this weekend, you're going to have another game that you could put in your portfolio or on your website. You also can validate game ideas. So one of the reasons to do this one this weekend is if you are looking to build some prototypes from the games that you came up with to work on during the full IGA program. And then finally, inspire full projects and just have fun. They're a lot of fun. It's really cool to see what you can put together in just 48 hours. One of my good examples here is Hollow Knight. People know this game? Do you guys know that it got started in a game jam? And do you know that it made, this is me estimating, I don't actually know, they haven't released their earnings. Do you know that it probably made somewhere around $80 million? And that it was a weird little game jam idea, and that spawned $80 million business and wound up on, the Nintendo Switch and catapulted the original founders of the company and of this game to fame and glory and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah, so this guy just made a cute little prototype of just a platformer fighter inspired by Dark Souls with this very unique beetle character. And people loved it. They were like, wow, this is amazing. And he felt like they loved it enough that validated his idea. And he put in a little bit more time. People kept loving it. And that just steamrolled into a full project that is now worth a bunch of money. And I think more importantly, has made a really beautiful addition to the world of platformers and intense fighting games. All right, so let's talk about this jam in particular. So this is going to be, like I said, a much more sort of casual jam. We're just going to be making something over the next weekend. You guys are going to share what you're working on in the channel, etc. So you have 48 hours starting now. I will be telling you the theme at the end of this presentation, and then you'll get to building. You're going to publish wherever you want. So you could, for instance, just have it on your machine in Unity and show it off. But I recommend, especially to get maximum benefit, that you actually publish this somewhere. And the easiest place to do that is on itch.io. Itch.io is where many jams are actually hosted, and they have a free service where you can host an HTML build of your game, a WebGL build of your game. If you don't know how to make WebGL builds, it will take you a little bit of time to figure it out, but it's not too hard, and there are plenty of people in our community who know how to do it. There's also a tutorial to do that on our student page, on our class resources page. So you can go check that out and try to figure that out. But hosting on itch.io means that you have a permanent place for people to go look at it in your portfolio, and you can even ask for donations and stuff like that. We're not going to do any voting or anything like that. We're just going to celebrate each other in the closing ceremony on Sunday, just play some games, have some fun, be excited that everyone tried it out. And of course, everybody who participates gets 1 point for their house. So timeline, like I said, kicking off right now on Sunday at 5 p.m. ET, 2 p.m. ET. That's messed up. 5 p.m. ET, 2 p.m. PT. We'll be showing off the games. So be ready to show by that time. And for community guidelines, you can totally talk about it in general. Remember that it is only the students who are allowed in this one. So in general, there's going to be some people who aren't students, but you can use looking for group channel if you want to try to invite other people to work with you. I'm cool with that. They don't need to be a current student as long as you're sort of running the team. And if you're going to post about it, if you're going to put it on social media, then go ahead and use the IGA Jam or the Indie Game Academy hashtags. Okay, so let's talk about how to actually game jam, how to have an effective game jam, because it actually can be pretty hard. So like I said, I recommend that you follow the exact same procedure that you would, that we are learning right now for building out a full video game. But that obviously your timeline is shrunk by quite a bit. So when we look at our Game Dev 5, typically, this isn't exact science or anything, but typically these are sort of the percentages of how much time you're going to use for those different categories. So I'm going to use just a little bit of my time here. Out of our 12 weeks, we're using just 1 week to ideate. I would normally, because we only have 12 weeks, I'm only doing 1 week for prototyping, but I'm trying to include this jam and some other stuff to sort of extend that as much as we can. Normally, I would make my prototyping a little bit longer than my ideation period. Production definitely takes up the majority of our time. Polish takes up almost as much time as production. The key distinguishing factor there is production typically ends. We have someone waiting. Christopher Reeves. Production typically ends when we have a full playable version of our game where all major features are done. We could release it. It's probably janky. It's probably a little ugly. There's probably some rough edges, but we could release it. That's when I would say production is complete and we've now moved on into polish. And then finally release, which really there's more steps beyond this, which is supporting your games when it's done. But for the sake of our IGA program, release is just getting it out there, getting it to people, being done with the game. So for your 48-hour period, this is what I recommend you do. You can feel free to do whatever the heck else you want, but your ideation should probably be done about 2.5 hours from now. You should have decided on a game and started building. I think David was saying this today in an earlier meeting that I had with him. There is that decision paralysis, getting stuck in that land of like, ooh, but we could make this. Ooh, but we could make this. Ooh, I have so many ideas I'm going to work on. And that will chew into your time.
Paralysis.
You want to say it again?
Analysis paralysis.
Yes, that's much better. It rhymes. Analysis paralysis. So real. And when you have 48 hours to use, can't do that. You got 2 hours maximum. Honestly, if you can pick your game in the first 30 minutes, great. And then move on. Just be happy with whatever you picked and move on and build it. Prototyping, you can kind of do, but because your 48 hours is such a short period of time, I don't think it's super important. Like I said, the main reason to prototype is to save time, is to say, okay, let's check which of these games is going to be the best possible product we could make. But given that you have 48 hours, there's not much time to be saved. So I don't think it's really worth prototyping. If you do want to prototype, there's an interesting concept I actually originally learned from John Rose called a word prototype, where you describe how the game is going to be played and ask how people would react in that situation. So if it was Skyrim, I would say like, you start in a dungeon and there's a dragon that flies overhead and destroys a city. What do you do? And that sort of is like the absolute most primitive version of a prototype you could possibly make. And you can ask a couple of people that sort of thing. What do you think of this concept, basically? And get some feedback that way. That's probably the most I would do in a game jam for prototyping. Maybe I would do paper prototyping, but we're going to talk about that next week. So I would say just don't do it right now. Production, I think you should have about 24 hours, so a full day of production, which means you are finishing your game tomorrow. Your game is fully completed, playable, all features done tomorrow, so that you have all of Sunday to polish, to iterate, to play test with people, to see how you can make this the best version of itself. Because a finished game that hasn't been polished is so much worse than a simpler concept that has been polished. That polish phase really makes a massive difference. And then finally, leave yourself at least 4 hours to release this game, which, like I said, mostly just means put it on itch.io for this case. Because even putting it on itch.io, especially if you're not used to it, can easily take up a good amount of time. And nothing sucks more than not having your game ready that you just spent 48 hours on. So leave yourself a good solid 4 hours. And if you do it in an hour, then you have 3 more hours to polish and you don't need to worry about it. So how that actually looks, to give you some like scheduled timelines. So that means by 8 p.m. tonight, Eastern time, you should have your game picked, what you're going to build. By 8 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern time, your game should be done. You could release it. You could show it at that time. By 1 p.m. Sunday, that's leaving you 4 hours before we actually show it off and meet for the closing ceremony, you should be playtesting and iterating. In our Discord, we have a public playtesting channel, so you can get some people from the community to actually play. Other people, I'm sure, are going to be happy to play. I'm going to be happy to play. Ping me. I will check out your game. And then, of course, if you have friends and family, utilize them too. And then leave yourself that 4 hours to upload your game to itch. Like I said, there is a tutorial to upload WebGL builds in the resources page on the class website. So some tips for Great Jam: do it for fun, enjoy it, have fun. It can be really stressful really easily, especially if there's like some feature that you're really trying to get in and itch or whatever is just being annoying and you can't quite get it to work. Just enjoy yourself. This is about having fun and furthering your game development experience. It's not about coming up with the most amazing game in 48 hours. 48 hours is just not long enough to guarantee that's actually going to happen. Create clear responsibility splits if you are working with other people. So say you are entirely in charge of level design. I'm not even going to touch it. You are entirely in charge of making all the enemies. Whatever else can be a nice, clear responsibility split. Because it's really easy to wind up code fighting, especially, and then that'll kill you trying to fix that and merge your conflicts. Finish your game to a playable state by halfway mark. I've said this a couple times, but seriously, be done tomorrow night. Your game should be playable. And then definitely play test. A lot of people run game jams and don't play test until they're showing off the game, or it's like time to be done. And then the game kind of sucks or it's broken, then that sucks. And yeah, this is a rule that I've lived by since I heard it. I absolutely love it. I've said it to you guys before. Freaking Sylvester Stallone said this, completion over perfection. When he was writing the script for Rocky Balboa, he wrote it in 2 days and then spent another couple of weeks actually editing it. Completion over perfection. Get it done, and then you can worry about making it really nice. All right, any questions before I tell you what the theme is and let you go? Okay. Can we get a drum roll, please? Is everybody ready? Is everybody ready for the theme? So the theme, to be clear, since I didn't quite say this, can be used in whatever way you want, in whatever way makes sense to you to relate it to your game. So the theme of the IGA How to Play Internal Jam is a new horizon. And that's it. You guys can take off, start working. I am going to close this down because I have to go eat and then probably pass out. But I'm really looking forward to what you guys are seeing. I'm going to be online once I wake back up. I'm going to be online the whole weekend. Ping me with anything. Ping me if you need play tests. And definitely try to encourage your fellow students to do this with you. I will see you all on Sunday. Bye-bye-bye. Take care, everyone. A new horizon.